Ooh, look at that. Made some coffee, came back to a dragon pickaxe. That is actually not how I intended to start this video, but it is a perfect example of exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. So you too can go and get some coffee and hopefully come back to a dragon pickaxe. What we're going to be talking about today is the Chaos Giant AFK method. Now, as of the recent mid-game rebalancing update, they have had their Dragon Pickaxe drop rate buffed by 10x, which means that it is now a 1 in 1,000 drop, as opposed to the earlier 1 in 10,000 drop. That's not even to mention the other perks of killing Chaos Giants, which are that they drop great supplies that all stack in one inventory. They're always aggressive, so AFKing is really simple, and they actually give decent combat experience. Let's get on to the requirements. For this method, you'll need to have done the Birthright of the Dwarves quest, which effectively requires 80 mining, 82 smithing, and 85 strength. These are somewhat high requirements, but I much preferred it over the Chaos Dwarf Battlefield method, which only requires forgiveness of a Chaos Dwarf. The other requirements are going to vary depending on which method you choose to utilize. I personally preferred the Soul Split and Bonecrusher method. So I used a Demon Horn necklace in order to automatically bury the big bones that the Chaos Giants dropped. And that allowed me to have infinite prayer. And then that allowed me to have Soul Split up infinitely, which then allowed me to sustain my health. The next best method that I found uses the Penance spell, which requires 67 magic, and what that does is you restore prayer points from damage taken. So as long as you're taking a sufficient amount of damage, you will then always have nearly full prayer points, which should allow you to sustain Soul Split. So it's a bit of a catch 22. You need to take enough damage in order to get prayer points, which then funds your Soul Split, which then heals you. I found that to be a really good method. Sometimes my prayer would get a little bit low, but if you attack more than one giant at a time, it was almost always topped up. The last method that I tested was the Vampyrism method. This is using the Vampyrism spell, which heals you for 5% of the damage dealt up to 50 life points. And that is supposed to keep you topped up on health as long as you are doing enough damage and attacking fast enough. However, I did find that with my gear and my setup, I was only able to AFK for 5 to 10 minutes before slowly losing enough health. And I think that one of the reasons it didn't work so well for me is because I'm using AoE attacks and I'm often attacking and aggroing multiple giants at once, which is also just sort of a thing that happens. Once you kill one, another giant will aggro onto you, and sometimes more than one giant will aggro onto you. So I think if you're only attacking one giant at a time or maximum two at a time, you could probably make the vampirism method last longer. But for my use case, once I got 3 or 4 giants on me, they would damage me so fast that I wouldn't be able to keep up with vampirism. But it is a really good method if you do not have soul split. That means you can actually do this guide, and hopefully you can adjust your gear in such a way that it lasts for a bit longer than mine did. Now for some optional things that helped me a lot. One thing is the legendary pet. You can see that in the very first clip, my pet picked up the dragon pickaxe for me. That allowed me to literally not even be in the room when I got the dragon pickaxe drop, and it was securely in my inventory. The issue with the legendary pet is that it doesn't always pick up the items that are dropped. Even if it's standing right on top of the items that are dropped, sometimes it just won't pick it up. I used to think it was to do with line of sight. Sometimes the legendary pet is behind a rock or something, and then it doesn't get the item. But I've also been equally right next to the item and it doesn't pick it up. So I'd recommend that you still stay somewhat vigilant, maybe have some Alt 1 notifications for loot beams, anything to make sure that you definitely don't miss out on getting your dragon pickaxe. The next thing is that I have the Bone Crusher and the Charming Imp on my tool belt. That just saves me 2 inventory slots. They're definitely not necessary unless you are using the Bone Crusher method. Then you'll need at least the Bone Crusher, but you don't need it to be on your tool belt. It'll work just the same in your inventory. The Charming Imp just picks up charm drops automatically, which is a nice to have. Definitely not necessary, and you don't even need to pick them up. But it also does help with your legendary pet, because then the Charming Imp picks up the charms first, and then your legendary pet will pick up the other items that are left on the ground. Now, I also had scavenging on my augmented sun spear. I was using a sun spear that was augmented just to level it up and slowly get some invention XP. Now, you definitely do not need invention. You do not need a sun spear, and you do not need to have it augmented with scavenging. I just had scavenging 4 on it, so I got a bunch of components also AFK. That's just a little boost, but you can use any weapon, any setup, any gear that fits and gives you the longest AFK times. And one more thing to note, which is the Vampyric Blood Essence. It's an item that goes in the pocket slot, and it has a chance of healing 2.5% of your melee damage dealt up to a maximum of 250. So that basically just means that it's going to give you a chance to heal off of your melee hits. It's not something I'm going over in detail how to get it and whatnot. It's something that I actually didn't even think to try until I was editing this video, but that combined with the Vampyrism spell could probably help you AFK even longer without having Soul Split. With that being said, I hope this video was helpful and you too can come back from making a nice cup of coffee and find yourself a dragon pickaxe. We'll see you in the next one.